Hello, human family. Welcome back. So, we talked about the ego last time. So we said the ego was this cartoon version of ourselves that we play most of the time. For some of us, all of the time. um, but most of the time, I will say. And we said it was based on our experiences and circumstances, and that it was very limited. We also said that it was very self-interested. It was about keeping you alive. It was about keeping you safe. It's very me, me, me. It's self-centered, the ego. Okay? And it operates out of this box of what you know. And we said the aware mind was one that would look beyond me and operate on things as you find them. Now, a good analogy for this is a computer. So, think of yourself as the hardware and your ego as the software. The hardware will play whatever software you put into it. The computer will play whatever software you put into it, right? So it doesn't judge it. It doesn't discriminate it. It doesn't say, I don't like this program, or I could get better, whatever. It just plays the program. And the program is basically whatever's been downloaded onto it. So for a human, that would be all of your experiences, everything your teacher said, everything your parents did, everything you experienced, everything you've ever seen, every movie, every advert, every news, every interaction is the data. That's the data you've collected and put onto the software. The software goes into the hardware, and the hardware operates whatever the software does. Now, on the conscious or an aware mind is aware of the limitations of the hardware and can see beyond. Think of the conscious mind as the person operating the computer, the hardware and the software. Yeah, but a more objective version, not another cartoon version. So the conscious mind is able to see beyond self-interest. It's able to understand oneness. It's able to see beyond separation. It's able to see the bigger picture of life. Okay, we're just humans having an experience here. And because it's able to see the big picture of life, it has a more objective view. It has a much more discerning view. It's able to make better decisions because it comes from a place of responding rather than reacting, which we've talked about in other videos. Now the ego, on the other hand, is very self-centered and will only act out of the capacity of its box. A good example, actually, there's a man called Dr. Hawkins. Unfortunately, he's passed away, but he's very good about speaking about this type of stuff. And one of the examples he used was, it's like me saying, oh, I like chocolate ice cream. So chocolate ice cream is my favorite. And then you look around and you go, what's that person doing eating a vanilla ice cream? That's not on. I don't like vanilla ice cream. We must kill all people who like vanilla ice cream because chocolate ice cream is the best, and that's the most important thing. And then going and destroying all, being aware is kind of realizing, actually, it's just another flavor, and that's okay. So it's that kind of being able to see the bigger picture beyond self-interest and self-centeredness. So the conscious mind, people think, yeah, being aware and blah, blah, blah. It takes work. Think of how many times you get swept away by your thoughts. How many times of the day are you aware? Not very much, me included. I'll be chopping something up and I'd have to stop and do a check-in, what I call a check-in, which is, okay, let's be aware, what am I doing? I'm aware of what I'm doing. I'm aware of who I am. Again, within 10 minutes, swept away, bring it back. The more you bring it back, the more awareness you bring into your life, and the more the awareness grows. And with that come understandings. With that come objectivity. It's not as easy as it seems. I know people can intellectually understand it, but to live it, to actually live it presently, every day, it's quite hard. It's not as easy as it looks. So that's why I always say there's work to be done. And also some emotions, some thoughts are hardwired. What I mean to say is, it's hard to escape them because they're so ingrained within us. When something is so ingrained and itched within us, it's hard to break away from them. It's a bit like, an alcoholic isn't an alcoholic the first time they drink. But if they continuously drink, it gets to the point where it might even be dangerous to stop. I'm not saying with your thoughts it's the same, but it becomes hardwired within us. It's hard. So that's why we've got to be extra cautious with our emotional patterns. They are so ingrained within us. Sometimes it's hard to separate you being objective and aware from kind of like your egoic, itched self onto you. It's like the tattoo. It's hard to remove. And a lot more work has to be done in those kind of scenarios. But so but it is the ability to consciously observe what you're experiencing, and to know that it's not, I guess it's not the end of the world. You know what I mean? Whatever you're experiencing. Now, a lot of the times we have very strong awareness when we experience huge, big things that are happening to us. And something in our foundation is rocked. In our foundation as a person on this planet. Like something changes, something dramatic happens to us. Usually that's the time when people reassess their attachments, they reassess their thinking. Now, the first time I guess I had my foundations rocked, and I was able to, in that moment, find this place of awareness was when I was 6 years old. My father passed away, and it was a very, very interesting experience that I had. I would say that was my first experience of awareness. So basically what happened, I remember the day. So it was a very still day. It was just my mum, me, and my dad. And my dad was in the bedroom, lying down. He wasn't very well for a period of time. And I used to go in and read him Bible verses and pray with him because I love my daddy. I didn't want anything to happen to him, or, I wanted him to get well. So I went in as I would normally do, read him some stuff, and, and then we had lunch. And then just after lunch, my mum began screaming, "Help, help, help, help." And, I was kind of, with the shock, went into the bedroom, and she was panicking, and Dad wasn't very well. The neighbor came, he came to help us, and there was a bit of like a commotion going on, and then the ambulance arrived, and then he was swept away, taken away. And I remember kind of standing around thinking, what just happened? Like, what did I witness? And what did I just observe? Was that real? And then the first thing I did was go and look in the mirror, because I wanted to know, was I alive? Was I watching this? What's going on? And I remember looking in the mirror going, who's watching me? Who's that? And I remember, like, in my childish way thinking, if I just keep still, really still, will it move by itself? Like, I thought my body would move, or like, I guess now looking back at it, I've kind of always operated, we all do, like this, we're kind of taken away by our thoughts and things. We think we're so it. And then to detach and observe, I just thought maybe I would move. And I remember studying everything on my face, and I stared in the mirror for as long as I could, just trying to understand who was this person looking. And this thing didn't ask questions, there was no emotion, there was nothing, it was just... And I kept looking for things, nothing. And I remember going and looking around. I walked away, looking around at everything, just looking, no judgment, no nothing, but just all seemed like I was looking at it through a different pair of eyes or something. I was just looking at everything. And then a few hours had passed. I was still kind of in this place of nothing. There was no emotion. There was no judgment. There was nothing. It was just, and a few hours had passed and they all returned. And I remember my mum and my aunt kind of bursting through the living room. I was hiding under the table right opposite the door, and they were devastated and they were crying, and just, it was all a lot of grief, a lot of sadness, a lot of crying. And I was just watching them. Everything they were doing, their actions, I was just watching. And I remember my mum spotted me and she instructed my cousin to take me away. So my cousin took me to her house for the night. And I remember when we were driving to her house, she would say, "You okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I just watching, observing. And at her house, she fed me some food and I stayed over. And the next day, she brought me to my neighbor's house right next to mine. And again, I remember waking up and the feeling was still there of just, I want to say peace, but not in an experience way, but in a peace way, with neither here nor there. And after that, I remember looking over the fence to see what was going on, because I could hear wailing and screaming and chat. It was very busy. There were so many people in my house. And as I looked up, you could see up over the houses as well. And I remember my dad's body just in that moment being taken away in the coffin, and I could see the coffin going down the street. And I do remember that was probably one of the first thoughts I had was, Dad's gone, and that's him, and he's gone. And I knew that he wouldn't come back, and that was it. And that was the only thought I'd had over that period of time. I guess at that point it would have been 24 hours, and just nothing. I love my dad. He treated me like an absolute princess. He's amazing. But that was my first experience of being so detached and being just aware and observing without any judgment. And so afterwards, my mum came and got me, and she took me in, and she told me that your dad had passed away. And I just looked at her, and she gave me a hug. And then I went around and I bumped into a cousin, and that was the first time I broke out of it. I started to play with her. Kids very present. And since that moment, that place, that peaceful place, whenever I've experienced anything, I've always been able to go to that place of peace. I didn't know what it was, or I didn't maintain it, like if at school somebody was mean to me, I was able to go to that place of observe and just allow it to wash over me. It became something I did, not like, oh, let me just switch it on, I'm going to do it now, but it always came up in those moments. And that was the first time I'd experienced it with my dad's death. Now, having had many little experiences like that, I can look back and understand what it was. I didn't at the time. I didn't as I was growing up. I was always trying to find meaning and, to life, but I never understood what that place was or what happened that day. And yeah, so that is kind of like the detached version. It's a lot harder than it seems as a human in some ways, when we're so consumed by our ego, to understand what it means to be detached, what it means to be objective, what it means to be conscious and aware. And I urge you to take plenty of check-ins with yourself, grow that space within yourself, because you're able to understand the bigger picture, you're able to operate in a much more objective way, you're able to serve yourself in a better way and follow your own heart and find your own joy and peace. Thank you for listening, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.